Today on Educate the Culture, we have a special guest here. I like to call her the information guru, the people's champion, your new attorney, because she's my attorney, Miss Vanisa Siler.
Hey.
But let me say this, let me correct that because I said Miss Vanisa Siler, attorney Vanisa Siler. So
That's right.
let's get that right. Let's set this off correctly. So we're gonna get into some information today because this is high level educate the culture. We have an attorney, not only an attorney, my attorney, right? So let's do it, right? So here we are
Yes.
out here. Charleston is treating us great today with this weather. So
Yes. Perfect.
yes. So I'm feeling this. But let's dig deep, man. Let's start back to the beginning. Let's take us back on your journey, wherever on the timeline that you want to start with, because getting to where you are right now as an attorney requires some backstory.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of backstory. I will say this. I am a proud third generation attorney. My grandfather was an attorney, Reverend Dr. Fred Henderson Moore. He was an attorney. My uncle, aunt, and some cousins. I come from a family of attorneys. We're currently working on the fourth generation. That'd be my daughter and nieces and nephews, trying to figure out which one of them will serve as the fourth generation attorney. So we're working on that.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Like I didn't expect that one. So that I like the way that went. But and I'm assuming that's where you got inspired to become an attorney, or was this something that developed in your mind on your own? How were you exposed to it?
Well, yeah. I worked just 2 summers. My grandfather had a law office downtown on Cannon Street, I believe. I believe it was Cannon Street. He has law office downtown. I worked as, well, now that I have a lot more knowledge, I wasn't a paralegal. I thought I was, but really I was just a secretary, a glorified secretary. But so I worked there, and that's where I was first exposed to the actual practice of law. But I'm a daddy's girl, and I'm also a granddaddy's girl. My grandfather, whenever you saw him, high chance you were going to see me too. I went to church with him every Sunday. I was always at his house. Like I was close on his heels. And at the time, because of course, now that I'm much older and just more aware of life and what should I say? I don't want to say it's difficult being a Black attorney because times have changed. It has its annoyances. I'll refer to them as like people questioning whether or not you're actually an attorney.
In 2025,
people asking to see your bar card, and they know they're not asking other attorneys of a certain look for their bar card. So it's just some annoyances. But at the time growing up, I didn't realize just how amazing it was to have a grandfather who was a practicing attorney and who'd been a practicing attorney since like during the 1960s. That was
wow.
Yeah. And I really rely on that knowledge a lot whenever I feel as if I can't do this anymore. It's like if my grandfather could survive this field while he was doing it,
Right.
I have no excuse whatsoever. So that helps. Just the fact that he practiced law when he was doing it, that helps just keep me motivated to keep going. Because how I see it is it's in my blood.
Right.
It's who I came from, So if he could achieve it, I can most certainly achieve it, especially considering the fact that I don't have to deal with the obstacles that I'm certain he had to deal with since there's so many years after. And there's been, I don't want to say a lot of progress, but there's been, I'll say, a significant amount of progress, considering where things were. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I started, or at least that's what introduced me to the practice of law. Just
Mm-hmm.
mainly my grandfather, and then of course aunt, uncle, and everyone else who were attorneys as well. Yeah.
Nah, that's amazing. Like I said, I didn't expect the backstory to start there. I didn't even think, I guess that's me being simple minded to think that it would have went generations back. So it took me for a loop. I was like, man, that's really interesting. So, and like growing up, being that you were uh, exposed so early, were you like in school, like kind of practicing debating with other students?
Not at all.
No.
Absolutely not. I wanted to be a music producer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, legit. I wanted to produce music. I
Mhm.
wanted to be a good old sound engineer. Um, and because I'm a big music head.
Right.
So, and Rivers Middle School Band. That's where the idea to become a music producer came from. When I was at Rivers Middle School, I was a part of the band. I could see myself creating music and good sounds, but I just I didn't pursue it. It wasn't practical.
Okay. It probably wasn't challenging enough for you because as an attorney, I'm sure you're challenged all the time. New laws, all kind of stuff that can mentally challenge you. I mean, music can as well,
Yeah.
but sometimes certain sectors of careers can challenge you a lot more than others, depending on how your brain is set up.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I like litigation.
Mm.
The challenge of litigation. I always told myself, and this isn't knocking other attorneys because I completely understand those who wish to only do contract law or just transactional. I'll say it's a whole lot more predictable. There's a whole lot more control. Um, with litigation, it's it's difficult, and it's a lot of surprise involved. It's hard to predict. It's there's there's control, but to a certain extent,
Hmm.
because once you get in front of a jury, it's it's in your hands, so to speak, as far as you presenting your story and presenting it in a way that's persuasive enough for a jury to side with your client. Um, but sometimes you can spell things out perfectly for a jury, and in your head it's like, I got this. I already know how they go. And then they come back and it's like, whoa, it's the complete opposite of what you expected. Um, and that's a blow to the ego.
Mm.
Going in and losing, that but that's the risk you take.
Yeah, I look at it two ways because yes, it could be a blow to the ego right then on the spot, but the bounce back and come back stronger, learning from that, and then how you move forward because of that lesson, I think it could build more character, build you as a stronger attorney. So I guess it depends on the attorney.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you can't win them all, right?
No, you can't. Well, there are a few attorneys out there famous for never losing a case.
Are they never losing, or they the ones that they could have lost, they settled out in a good position for their client?
That's a that's a good question. Well, we'll say never lost at a trial.
Okay, because they
We'll
know
say that.
maybe they're good at picking their battles too. That could be a skill within itself.
Yeah, exactly. So, my very first loss in court, um, that was a a not being good at picking your battle situation.
Right.
And let's be clear, that was not under my law firm. I was working for another law firm at the time. They picked that case, not me. But I went to trial, and my first trial, I wasn't even a year into being a lawyer. I wasn't a year in. Like, I'll shout out Nastapool Law Firm. That was like lawyer boot camp. It really truly was, they hired me straight out of law school as a litigation attorney. Normally, when you're first starting out at a law firm and you just graduated from law school, or I should say, and you just passed the bar, um, if you get a job with a firm, you're just doing legal research, drafting motions for them. You're not in court. You're not conducting depositions. You certainly aren't defending them. You're not doing mediation. You definitely ain't doing trials by yourself. I had done, in less than a year of being an attorney, I defended depositions, conducted depositions, represented clients during mediation, had a trial. They sent me there alone. They sent me to Horry County. That it was nice being in Myrtle Beach for a trial, but I think it was a 2-day trial. They sent me there by myself, and I was scared. I can't remember the last time I was so terrified in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. It was, and it wasn't a direct examination heavy trial, whereas there were several witnesses that I had to direct and cross. It wasn't, luckily it wasn't like that, which is more than likely why they sent me off by myself. But it was the case, and I'm laughing. Without giving much detail, I was representing an individual who was struck on a bicycle, that he was operating on the wrong side of the road. Because there are certain, and a lot of people don't realize this, but it isn't legal in a lot of municipalities to ride your bicycle on the sidewalk. You have to do it in the street. It has to be with the flow of traffic. You can't be going against the flow of traffic. It has to be with. So not only was he on the sidewalk, but he was going against traffic, and he was drunk. So
they threw you to the wolves.
It was a bad. And honestly, I went into it knowing that I was probably going to lose, just because the facts were just bad.
Right.
The individual who hit him was in a work vehicle, so you have this working class individual who lives in Horry County. He serves the county of Horry because of the type of job that he had, against this intoxicated individual whose aesthetic alone gave you probably don't work.
Aesthetics gave.
It was.
I'm probably gonna lose this one.
Yeah. So I kind of knew, and I think they knew too, which is why they felt comfortable sending me alone. But I got really good feedback, despite the fact that I was just scared out of my mind. I remember, because I'm shy. That's why when I was telling you before we started this, it's like, I'm a little unnerved right now. By nature, I'm shy. Ever met a shy lawyer? Hey. But I remember my hands shaking and just, it was crazy. I'm a lot more comfortable in court now. I go in there and I'm good, but starting out, man, listen. Whew. Luckily, I'm not one of those people who get nervous and start sweating. Oh, I would have been drenched during that entire trial if I was a nervous sweater. Like it would have been awful. But I appreciate the experience, and I did learn about choosing the right cases. Because there were other cases that came in, and it's like, okay, how did this get here? But okay, they got me handling it, practice. So,
that's how I look at that first case. The firm probably knew this isn't a favorable case, and being that you're new, let's push her off the ledge, see if she can fly, see if we get back. That was probably a great learning curve that they could use for you, like like a tester. So that's how I was looking at it, just so they can evaluate how you respond to this case.
Oh yeah, most certainly. And the thing is, I had the jury until they brought out the blood alcohol result.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was looking at the jury, and I was just saying how, at least during my opening statement, I recall saying this big machine. I kept describing the other party's work truck as a machine, and just the way that I kind of created the story for the jury, it was really, really compelling. Like, he got hit by this big machine, and he's on this little bike, and and I was making eye contact. I was like, okay, they're nodding, they feeling it. Okay, okay. But man, when those blood alcohol results came out, and of course I filed some motions to try to keep it out. I knew they would, because it's relevant.
Right.
So I knew the judge was going to, like, nah, bring that in. But, you still have to try due diligence, right? So I put in my little motions. Y'all shouldn't include this. This should not be revealed during trial. Like, nah, it was brought in. After that, man, I lost the jury. It was a wrap. But I really appreciated that experience, and just my entire experience at that particular law firm, because it was literally some sink or swim type situations that I was constantly being put in. And I thank them for, I don't know, maybe recognizing something in me that I didn't recognize, because oftentimes I'd be like, why do they keep doing this to me?
What's the level that can keep you out of trouble so people will know? First, let me ask you this. What is the legal limitation?
I don't know, honestly. I do not know, and I don't shy away from telling people I don't know stuff either. I should know it, but I don't do a whole lot of drunk driving stuff. So, but at least as far as measuring it in drinks, what I have learned is that about a glass of wine, a 9-ounce glass of wine, can take you over the limit. And if you're having mixed drinks, depending upon how heavy the pour is, 1.5 to 2 mixed drinks could put you over the limit.
Got it.
And some people, they can down a whole glass of wine and they're fine. I'm not encouraging anyone to do that.
Of course not.
But some people, everyone's tolerance is different. And that's the thing that blood alcohol doesn't really test for, of course, because it's how can you test for that, really? Like, someone's tolerance. I would just suggest always opt for an Uber.
And I like that. That's the most mature thing to do when out drinking. But when we're ready to go, we're ready to go.
Yeah, I know. When you order that last drink, call that Uber.
If I'm walking down the street, I may not be from this neighborhood, but I'm not committing any crime, but I'm look suspicious. What is a piece of advice that you can give to keep people out of giving so much information and it don't become a back and forth where now it escalates to something else?
I'll say this. My go-to answer is don't say shit. But
correct.
You have to have the complexion for protection to not be able to say anything. However, for individuals who do not fall under that umbrella of protection based upon their complexion, it's just best to answer, but answer short. Don't give too much information, because what you say can be used against you. So if it's a closed-ended question that you're being asked, yes or no, then just answer yes or no. But with officers, of course, more than likely they're asking you a bunch of open-ended questions, right? Just answer the question exactly as is asked. So just as an example, and this is how I prep my clients for testimony, whether it's deposition testimonies or a trial. Ask Answer the question exactly the way it's been asked. If I ask you what you have for breakfast, say cereal, and that's it. Don't tell me you have frosted flakes in a blue bowl with almond milk. I didn't ask you all that. I asked you what you have for breakfast. Just say cereal. So any sort of interaction with law enforcement, only answer the question that they've asked you. That's it. Keep it short.
That makes sense. And that's very, very important. It's so like you don't realize how like that was very small detail that means so much. And we don't really realize that, especially if we don't have a law background.
Yeah.
So it's important to know these things. And I encourage people to learn some sort of basic law. You know, they don't have to, you know, try to pass the bar or anything. We'll leave that to you. So if they get past this type of information, we'll just hire you, like how I've done several times and got great results, and now want everyone to know about you. So I, you know, encourage people to at least have a general sense of what they're dealing with. And I've seen people get in like car accidents and they don't reach out to attorneys, in my opinion, soon enough. I know it's a statute of when they can, but I wonder why so many people don't reach out to attorneys after car accidents. And a lot of the times I see people that's actually in the right and still don't reach out to attorneys.
Well, as someone who I practice personal injury, that's just one of the things. But I'll give myself as an example. I was rear-ended a few years ago, and I knew the process. I'd have to go to a chiro, keep up with those appointments, and sometimes you just don't want to be bothered. Even though you're well within your right to go pursue a legal claim against whomever hit you, sometimes people just don't want to be bothered. I did not want to be bothered. And I was well within my right to, because I was rear-ended.
Right.
I was minding my business, sitting in the car, boom, you know? And I did feel a little pain, but I was too busy. I knew that I wouldn't keep up with my chiro appointments, and I just didn't feel like being bothered.
And on top of that, you're an attorney. So you know what to do and what not to do.
And I still did.
Yeah, so I guess some people, not having the knowledge, they don't know where to go, when to go, and it kind of hurt in the long run is what I'm thinking. Well, I guess their insurance will, provide some sort of protection at that point. Well, that's, if you're in the wrong, I would say.
It depends on your policy.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Will you? It depends on whether they have a policy.
Correct.
That's enforced at the time of the accident. There's a lot of people driving around with no insurance. But yeah, that's the thing. At least when it comes to personal injury, from what I can tell, it's oftentimes people just don't want to be bothered with it. When it comes to other matters, it's money.
Right.
You have to be able to afford to pursue certain claims. When it comes to personal injury, that's contingency fee.
Right.
So you don't get paid unless I get paid. And we front the costs, which really the costs are obtaining medical records, incident reports, collision reports, all that stuff. We front the costs, and then those costs, which normally the costs are so nominal, I don't normally take it out of settlements. It's like I'll eat the cost. That way they can keep a little bit more money in their pocket. But that's contingency. When it comes to other matters, like people being sued, for instance, no one expects to be sued unless you're in a particular industry where that's common. Then it might be a thing for you to expect. But a lot of small businesses, I'll say specifically, because I do represent a lot of small businesses defense, and they're not expecting to be sued. So, and in the state of South Carolina, if you're a corporation, you must be represented by a lawyer. Your corporation cannot represent itself in court, at least not in the state of South Carolina. So they get sued and they're not expecting it, and there are no funds allocated for defense, for legal defense. In the instance where you're sued, right? You have 30 days to respond to a lawsuit, though.
How many days?
30. So you've got to hurry up and get the money to retain a defense attorney within 30 days. And oftentimes the retainer fee for a defense attorney is going to run you around $7,000. I offer payment arrangements, and my law firm also offers financing as well, but which a lot of attorneys do, because it's kind of known, especially nowadays, no one has that kind of money just to spend suddenly. So to answer your question, full circle, either people don't want to be bothered like me, or they don't have the money. So it's like, and I know I use corporations as an example of people needing an attorney, but then there's other things like in family court. If all of a sudden you're sued out of the blue for child support or child custody, you probably should get a lawyer instead of trying to defend the matter yourself. And it just, people won't reach out to one until it gets to a certain point during which they realize, okay, I need a lawyer. And then they come up with the money. But oftentimes, it's money.
Another question I would have for you, kind of sort of in the same department, a lot of small businesses are, put together as a LLC. And most of the time they seem to be under I don't know if this is a misconception, that if they're being sued under the LLC, it doesn't affect them personally. So do you want to speak to the people who have LLCs who believe that they cannot be pursued personally due to their LLC?
It's called piercing the corporate veil. And the corporate veil is that protection, that layer of protection that separates your personal assets from that of the entity, right? Well, that veil can be pierced under a set of certain circumstances, right? One of them being, the number one thing being commingling of funds. You are using your business checking account to pay your rent, not the rent for the office building that you're leasing, but the rent for your apartment or your house that you're renting. That's a personal expense, but you're using your business checking card to do that. That's commingling of funds, So that's the number one thing. And nowadays, I'm seeing this happen a whole lot more. Attorneys are now, because it's a process to pierce the corporate veil. It is, so let's say you get a judgment, they win a judgment, and they find out that the corporation doesn't have the requisite insurance to really get that judgment money from, or just the insurance company denied the claim. So oftentimes attorneys would leave it alone because it's just so much work that you have to go through to pierce the corporate veil. But lately, what I've been seeing, these plaintiffs' attorneys, they've been, hey, listen, we're piercing that corporate veil. We need you to furnish your tax returns. We need your personal bank account statements. We need your business bank account statements. We need all that stuff. We need your business documentation, because that's another thing as well. In the state of South Carolina, if your business isn't properly documented, they can pierce the corporate veil just off of that. So you may not have commingling of funds, but for corporations that have shareholders, for instance, there certain things must be documented. If you don't have bylaws, but you call yourself having shareholders, pierce the corporate veil, because you don't have the proper documents that you should have. So it's not it's not true that your personal assets are shielded just because you have an LLC. As long as you're doing things properly, then yes. But so often people just go obtain an LLC and then I'm a business owner, woo, and nothing else is done, document wise.
Right.
Nothing else is done. They're just operating the business and operating the business. And I will say that that is one thing that that really hinders a lot of small businesses that I've come across is just the lack of documenting, not just business documents, but processes and things of that nature. Things that you document when you're trying to scale up, you know, because document your processes. That's like the number one thing when it comes to scaling a business.
Right.
So, but we don't even have that oftentimes. There isn't even an operating agreement that exists 9 times out of 10, just in small businesses. And we could definitely use some work in that department, small businesses.
I think that was very educational because most people don't know that. I would jump out there and say about 95% of LLC holders don't know that.
Yeah.
That's, my personal opinion. And another thing under that umbrella that I wanted to address, verbal agreements. Are verbal agreements a way to hold someone responsible to what you agreed on?
It depends. So there's something called statute of frauds, taking it back to law school. But the statute of frauds, there are certain agreements that must be in writing, or else real estate being one of them. Real estate purchase, there's no verbal contract. Not at all. But it depends still, because under a certain set of circumstances. So I'll say this. So at times, a court will look at the actions of the parties to determine whether or not there was a binding contract. So let's say that you agree to perform landscaping on my property for a certain amount of months in exchange for a certain amount of money. So you show up to my house the first 4 months, and I didn't pay you. You sue me, and I say, well, we didn't have an agreement. You just showed up and started mowing my lawn. I didn't tell you to do that. But, based on the actions of the parties, you coming to mow my lawn and me allowing you to do it and not stopping you for 4 months, and then I claim there's no contract, the judge is gonna be like, I don't know. He came by and you allowed him to come do it, and y'all never discussed payment. Y'all never had an agreement, really? Nah, I find that there's a contract. So it just depends. It's one of those things like real estate transactions, for instance, where it falls under the statute of frauds. Then no, it's not a contract. It's not legally binding, at least. And there's even a dollar amount. Contracts over a certain dollar amount, they have to be in writing. So it just depends. I told you it was gonna get a lot of lawyer answers. It depends. Because literally that's the situation with almost every legal question. It depends.
Well, law is so broad, and I can only imagine how quickly and how often laws change.
Oh yeah.
So I could see that answer being it depends a lot because how things change. Staying in compliance with the law.
Yeah.
That's big within itself. Changing the topic a little bit, do you see, let me ask you, first of all, from my understanding, you have one child, is that correct?
Yeah. Leah.
Okay, and how old is she?
13.
Okay, and being that, you come from law lineage, do you see your daughter going that way?
Absolutely not.
What does she show interest in?
Absolutely not. She's not interested. She has the creative genius that I wish I had. See, I only copy good decor ideas. Like I have to look through magazines girl. She is extremely creative, very artsy. She approached me with a business plan a few months ago, just random. I didn't ask her for this plan now. She approached me with a business plan one day for a beauty salon. And she even had a little budget that she created for booth rental space. She was saying, and the electricity is going to have to be paid, the water bill is going to have to be paid, and she legit was like, "Yeah, I want a beauty salon." And she told me, "Mommy, I don't want to go to college." She said, "As soon as I'm done with high school, I want to open up a salon." She has no interest whatsoever in being a lawyer.
Well, one thing I found beauty in is being that you said she's 13. The fact that she's already putting together her plan, like that's like most people don't start doing that till late 20s, you know. So her being so advanced with that and having a natural skill, and then that shows a lot about your parenting skills and what you poured into your child. Like that shows a lot to like I said, your parenting skills and what you've done as a mom. So that's amazing. And on top of the fact that her having all of that information ahead and having mommy as a protector, I could see her having her salons, being an entrepreneur, and then you knowing how to help her set up properly. It's like a great marriage, especially it being your child, you know?
Yeah,
So I take my hat off to you for that.
I'm proud of her.
And one more thing I wanted to hone in on. I never asked, like, what do you actually specialize in? Like, what do you practice? And like, so for people who are watching and they need the best attorney in the land, what are your specialties first? So, you know, just in case you want to put that out there first.
Yeah. In order for us to specialize, we have to have special recognition from the bar. So I can't say specialize, but I practice personal injury. I like and civil matters, anything that's not criminal. But so personal injury, so car accident, I would say business law, because I've been doing a whole lot of corporate defense, small businesses.
Okay, so it's safe to say if you've been in a car accident or have some sort of a traffic violation, or if you have a business, this is your go-to attorney. And how do they contact you?
Yes.
And for consultations or anything? Because it's not too late. You may have had something going on or currently going on. This is the time to act.
You can reach our office by phone, 843-887-8877. I made it very easy for the folks. 843-887-8877. Have our website, the Siler, www.thesiler, that's SILER, thesilerfirm.com. Yeah, website, or give us a call.
Okay, and this is Educate the Culture with attorney Vanisa Siler, the guru, the baddest woman in the land. Like I said, hey, if she's good enough for me, she's definitely good enough for you. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.